They think that we are dumb, Johnson. They think we're cuckoo. Now, cuckoo's crazy. They don't think we're crazy. They think we're dumb, fam. All right, so look, man, we got this thing going on right now about the voting rights. It's not about voting rights. They think we're never going to figure out that it's about having people vote who don't have rights to vote. See, you're not supposed to vote if you're not a citizen of the United States. But if they don't ask you, and they don't have you when you register. See, people. So let me back up. There are people that don't understand what the argument's about, and I want to try to clear the way. I'm trying to make this simple and plain for people, right? They'll tell you that, man, every state you live in America, you got to be a United States citizen to vote. Here's the thing: if you could register without proving it, and if you could vote without confirming it, are you really only making sure American citizens are voting? And if you say, Tim, it's not that big a problem, how would you know? I mean, fam, I would have never thought there was a whole bunch of people opening daycares and clinics that were bogus until we found out that a whole lot of clinics and daycares was bogus. I mean, how do you know something that you don't know? How do you confirm something you don't look for, that you don't check for? How do you determine something? Right? That's crazy. How do you determine something that you weren't searching for? It's sort of like they want us to believe that there are people, no one would ever want to vote unless they were a citizen. But see, I just can't buy it, because why would you not want there to be a rule that says you had to show that you were a citizen? I mean, if you don't care if people are citizens, just say it. But if you say we only want citizens to vote in our elections, why would you not at least make sure when people registered, they had to say, hey, I'm a citizen? They had to prove it in some way, shape, or form. And if you haven't been doing that, how could you really be upset that somebody wants to make that happen? Why does that have to do with race? Wouldn't that have to do with citizenship, not race? Right? But see, the Democrats are so busy making everything about race because they like using us. Right? Because we're the people that were brought here as slaves, as cargo, as mules, as workers who were exploited, humiliated, everything negative. I don't even want to get into it because I don't feel like it right now. And then we were the ones who the country was founded. We know the backstory. Democratic Party has been able to move its, membership or be able to win elections on the strength of Black Americans for about 40, 50 years. Nobody can doubt that, right? Okay. So, but I want you to know that over the last 40, 30 years, I'd say the last 30 years have not been about Black Americans at all. They just use the word black, or they use racism, and there are people that think automatically Black people. But that's not what the focus is. Them days is over, Johnson. See, when we would sit up here yelling, when I was up here yelling, when all of us who've been fighting a good fight have been up here saying, hey, we got to pull the alarm, sound the alarm about what's happening with all this immigration, you were too busy caping for a whole nother group that lived in another country. And you didn't realize that whole time we was losing political capital. You so busy worried about everybody else, you weren't worried about your kids. You weren't worried about your neighbors. You weren't worried about yourself. You were worried about other people. And you know what? We were never in a position for that to happen to you. You should have never got that comfortable in America at all, where you would just be like, oh, I guess I'm good now, and now I can just worry about new people. The fact that there are Black Americans who got that comfortable in America and then have the audacity to say, when we call out the issues of America, that we're being white supremacists. No, you're white supremacists because you done fell into a false sense of security like our fight is over. We never got compensated. We never got repaired. We never got a fair shot. We never got what was owed to us. And you done moved on to a whole nother fight. And when I say you, I mean these people that think this way. They think they're so progressive. Meanwhile, black people still over here like, what's up? We never got in. They done moved over to trans kids and immigrants, Latino immigrants from across the southern border. They done moved over, man. They gone. They gave up on black American issues. So did the Democratic Party. My thing is, I don't think Democrats ever really cared about it at all. They just used it as a mechanism to fundraise and to try to win a moral argument and to call Republicans racist, because that has been very helpful to the Democrats. See, whenever they got mad at the Republicans, to this, even today, first thing they do is call them racist. It's the first thing they do. That's the artillery. That's the big guns. And that's what they've been using. Nothing else stacks up like that. Nothing else has the same stigma because of the country. And if you think I'm wrong, just consider for a second. Consider for a second. When people typically lose their careers, they get canceled, what's the reason? What typically is the reason? You know, the only person ever known to get in trouble for trans issues or, was Dave Chappelle. He didn't get canceled. And Kevin Hart. Kevin Hart made a joke about having a gay son. It was just a joke 10 years ago, and they took the Oscars from him. But that's about it. I mean, mostly everything else is racial related. So the Democratic Party and the liberals have been using race all this time, but it was never it stopped being about even a semblance of benefiting us. It's about other groups. So now they use race, they use black Americans, and they use our moral authority. They use our legacy of Jim Crow, Jane Crow, black code, slavery. They use all of that to help other groups of people. And that one of those groups of people are the new immigrants, the new people that Joe Biden let into the country. Yeah, come on, man, we're gonna be honest. So when I say they think we're done, they think we ain't figured this out yet. This voting rights thing don't have nothing to do with black Americans. Man, the percentage of black Americans that don't have IDs is very small. It's like the same percentage of poor white people that don't have IDs. Why would you think that's a black issue? Why would that not just be a poor people issue if that's the case? Unless we're talking about cognitive ability. I mean, what are we really saying? All of us have friends. All of us know people. How many people do you know that don't have an ID? So I just think it's time. I want to use this issue as an opportunity for people that haven't been getting it to get it. Fam, they moved on. The Democratic Party are looking forward to their new constituency. We proved in 2020, we proved in 2016 that we was getting tired of the Democrats. You understand what I'm saying? We proved it. We proved it in the vote. That's how Trump won. Lack of enthusiasm. Once we had, see, here's the thing. So many black Americans are waiting for an opportunity to see a black president. Then they got one, kinda, in Barack Obama, Kenyan American, but we know. He had black friends, right? Kinda. Or black people admired him. Jay-Z, Beyonce, Rihanna. You know what I'm saying? These people admired him, so that was close enough, right? He had the black party at the White House. They didn't invite Biden. Good times, good times. But what happened, here's the downside to it. When you finally get the thing that you've been thinking was going to change everything for you, and when you get that thing and it doesn't change anything for you, what does it cost? Yeah, if you've been chasing after this thing, wow, wait till one day we're going to get a black president. And we going to have equality. We're going to get a black president. We're going to get reparations. We get a black president. We're going to have truly equal. And a lot of people thought that, and not just black people either. Not just black Americans. Not just black Americans thought this, as well as white Americans, man. There were white folks who totally felt that they had lived long enough, that they were seeing something change in America that was going to be so historical. And it was historical, but it didn't change anything. Right? And what I'm saying is, once that happened, and it did not have the effect we thought it was going to have, the enthusiasm, the lack of enthusiasm for the Democratic Party said everything they needed to hear. That's when I believe they decided, if we get the presidency again, we got to bring us in some new voters. If we get the presidency again, we got to do whatever we got to do to bring in people that'll vote our way. We just lost to Trump. So you had Obama, we're at an all-time high. 2008, all-time high. 2012, we were already getting soured on Obama. People say, hey, we can't ask him for nothing in our first term. A lot of people got disappointed that you're going to have a black president, and he'll tell you, nah, I'm not the president of black people. I'm the president of everybody. Calm down, Pookie, sit down. Stop crying, stop complaining, stop whining. That's what he said to black people. Obama sounded just like Roland Martin. He sounded just like all those liberal elites who talk down to black people. That's exactly how Obama sounded. In fact, that's who he is. That's how he sees black people. That's what it is. But what happened was, at some point, I think in the 2012, because I know for a fact, if the same amount of, the only reason why Obama got elected the second time was that white Americans, they're bigoted towards Mormons. If the same amount of Americans that came out for John McCain came out for Romney, Obama never would have got reelected. These are the numbers. That's the deal. So we was already, Democrats always like, oh my God, we almost lost. That would have been catastrophic. And by 2016, they did lose. It took a pandemic for Biden to win. You do understand that. I mean, all those mail-in ballots, that was a humongous amount of votes. That was never fair. Biden got more votes than Obama. And no one questions like how that happened. How the hell did Biden get more votes than Obama? I'm not saying that Trump is right, but I'm saying he ain't wrong. It was a change in the system. People were voting from mail-in ballots, and it was crazy. So just follow me. So what I'm saying is the Democratic Party realized they needed something in order to win the election. You don't think they would stoop to that to win the election? Bush took us to war to win an election. Yeah, in large part, that was part of the reason why we ended up in Iraq, was to win an election. So here we are, we sit here today, and I'm just saying, there are people that don't get it, and the Democrats think we're dumb. They think we don't get it. I get it. Anybody here who doesn't get it, I want to try to help you understand this point of view. I want you to see the truth for what it is, fam. The Democratic Party has moved on in you. You have proven, Black America has proven to be unreliable at this point. They can't win elections on Black Americans' backs anymore. They realize that. They demonized us. They called us bots or even questioning them in 2016. We turned into bots. Russian bots is what Black Americans were called. We even did question if they should vote for Hillary Clinton. I was here. You guys, anybody else was online in 2016 around the political? They sick the, what was it? The Correct the Record. Correct the Record were computer bots employed by the DNC, working with the Hillary Clinton campaign, with one of her former staffers. He created an agency and they created Correct the Record. It was a group. And what they would do is every day they would harass and troll any dissenting voices who didn't support Hillary, particularly influencers. Man, it was crazy. I don't know why that wasn't considered a Russian troll farm. I don't know where it was housed, but I know that there were definite influencers who were paid to harass, to troll, to correct the record. They called it correcting the record, arguing with people in the comment sections, using fake identities. All this happened. It was very annoying. It was a very tough time to not be a Democrat or Republican, but to be independent, but to be against the system. This is around the time of WikiLeaks. So all I'm saying is all this leads us up to where we are now. Where we are now, man, is we have this SAVE Act. And I'm not saying it's a great thing. I'm not saying it's a great piece of legislation. I don't like the birth certificate aspect of it. But I can tell you this, how dare you have a country that has states as big as New York or states as big as California that doesn't demand you show your ID to register and to vote. They said, Tim, we should have to show ID. Yeah, to register, but not to vote. And in California, it's the other way. You don't have to show your ID to vote. So, what we have is very clear indication that the Democratic Party has moved on from Black Americans. They moved into another area. We're not reliable for what they need. Like they need a captive audience that's beholden to them. We wanted that black president. We got one. And he said, screw y'all. It's a black president with an all-white young staff who said, talk this way and listen to this song and say this word. They wrote his speeches. He didn't even write them speeches. All that the dust off your show, dirt off your shoulders shit, all that cool stuff, that wasn't him. That was a few hip white guys on his staff that put that together. He didn't personally do that. He's a robot. He's a cyborg. Obama was put together in a lab, basically, to appeal to the masses. It's an actor. He's an actor. So anyway, so we're here. It's 2026. We just got off the largest influx of new arrivals in the country. And then we got people that don't believe there was a reason behind it. I don't know about you, but if 5 people come to my house, I know they coming to my house. Like, I mean, if I invite people to my house, I know I'm inviting people to my house. Why would you think that a president would allow as many as 300,000 people a month to come across the border? You think that's an accident? I mean, I don't know. I think maybe there's some people that are just, they believe the fallacy. They think we do things because we're nice. They think we do things because we just want to help the world. That's crazy. You think we're in Iran because we care about Iranians. That's what you think. You're right. You're right. You know there's something nefarious, right? You know, because we don't do nothing without a reason that benefits us. And anything done under a president, come Come on, you know it's a benefit to us. So what do you think the benefit was? Votes and cheap labor. It's right there. So they think we're done. They think we ain't going to figure it out. I'm glad they're so glaring with it. I'm glad it's so obvious. Only the people that are defiantly, like I don't want to get it. I don't want to understand. Only those people are confused right now. You don't have to know shit about politics to figure it out. Someone gets drunk and drives home and wrecks the car. Why'd they wreck the car? They were drunk. I mean, it's basic. 1, 2, 3. You know what happened. He was drinking. He was out drinking. He looked drunk. He stumbled out when he left, and then he never made it home. And then when you see him, he says his car is wrecked or whatever. You don't go, oh, wow, well, what happened? Explain. Now, you can put 1 and 2 and 3. You can ABC. 1, 2, 3, you get it. What I'm telling you, under Joe Biden, the Democratic Party president, the same party that was losing black votes who just lost to Trump, does a Hail Mary and they get Biden in there after they got rid of Bernie's ass. They end up with Biden. Everybody drops out, they get Biden. Biden's in there. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of new people come across the border. The biggest wave of people ever seen in American history. And you think nothing of that. I'm a conspiracy nut because I can count. More people came across that border under Biden than any other president. And you think that's just a mishap. That's not about, so anyway. I guess if people don't want to accept it, there's nothing we can do. There's no way to convince people of something that they don't want to believe. Like if you see it or you don't, You see somebody pull out a gun, they got a gun. They pull out a gun, they point it at your face, you go, that's not a gun. It's like, well, it looks like a gun. It looks like the barrel of a gun I'm looking at. You're going, no, that can't be it. They wouldn't do that. Now that's a gun right there. Yes, and those were people. They came across the border. It was under a Democratic president. They was behind. They just lost to Trump. They could never have another Obama. They'll never get that excitement. Black people never be that excited again to come out and vote in record numbers. What's their plan? There's always a plan. There's got to be a plan. If there wouldn't have been a pandemic, you wouldn't have got Biden. I firmly believe that, fam. I'm not going to go as far as Trump and say they stole the election, but I will say I think it's crazy to imagine that Joe Biden was more popular than Barack Obama. He wasn't even running on nothing, except Trump is evil. Okay. So now here we are. We're in 2026. Right now we got ICE working as TSA agents. And that's some cold-blooded stuff because the whole idea is, they don't want to fund the Department of Homeland Security because ICE falls under the Department of Homeland Security. And they don't want to fund it because, they've been deporting people, which is what ICE does, which is what our Border Patrol, CPB does. That's what it does. But that's a function. But they don't want that to happen. They don't want that to, this whole thing about people are being abused and people are being gunned down in the streets. Fam, if the numbers of people being hurt by ICE is nothing compared to regular police. I mean, for real, a lot of Trump supporters who pay attention, it's crazy. The people that pay attention to Trump, the people that are MAGA, there's a portion of those people that are enraged because the numbers of deportations have not been anywhere near what he promised to do. But if you look at the other side, look at the Democrats, they're losing their minds. Like this is, a, like it's a catastrophe. But the numbers don't bear it out. It doesn't look that way on paper. It's a lot of activity, it's a lot of coverage, but it's not a lot of production. That's part of what our media is able to do. The media makes things look any way they want it to look. It is not the amount of deportations have not lived up to the hype. He's not lived up to the hype at all. Okay? But that's not that's not the message the Democrats want. The Democrats have to run on a message. They have to get something. They have to do something, and all they can do right now is complain. And if they can't complain and continue to demonize Trump, they got nothing. That's all they got. It's fear of Trump. But they say, okay, we got to stop funding ICE because ICE is Nazis. Now, we all know what Nazis did. We ain't going to go there. This is not a Charlie Kirk podcast. You know what I'm saying? We ain't got to go there. We'll say, this isn't the right wing. I'm not going to get into all of that, but we know Nazis were doing bad things. Okay? We're just going to say Nazis were doing bad things. None of those things are like what's happening now with ICE. Getting put out of a country getting put out of a country you weren't legally in, is that the same thing as going to Auschwitz? And for you to even say that is crazy. But that's how you know they're really connected to the powers that be, because you would think the ADL would be livid right now. Just to have that comparison would have you picketed by the ADL. The fact they've been quiet when people make these comparisons. Like I've been looking at, I was looking at the numbers, right? Because I get so tired of hearing folks say, all these people have died at the hands of ICE. I started looking into it, I'm like 30 people. 30 people in 2025? 32 people. Really? That's what we're talking about? Yeah, it's up from 15 in 2024. But fam, if only 30 U.S. citizens died at the hands of cops, we'd have a parade. I don't know what we do. More people die on a weekend in Chicago and, in Memphis and Chicago combined than have died the entire year in 2025 in ICE custody. Not at the hands of ICE, in ICE custody. People die in custody in prison all the time. I don't know if you understand this. Back when I was supporting Nina Turner when she was running in Ohio, the person she was running against was part of the local state house. Part of my reason for being so vocal about Nina was that I rocked with Nina Turner, but I also had done research on Chantel Brown. And I know that Chantel Brown was very quiet about all the deaths in Ohio prisons. There were more deaths in Ohio prisons than there has been in ICE detention centers. There were more deaths in Jasmine Crockett's district in the prisons that have been in Ohio, that have been in nationwide in ICE detention centers. Almost 200 people died in Texas prisons in 2025. 32 people died in ICE custody in 2025. But you got Jasmine Crockett talking as if we were at the brink of a catastrophic genocide that was occurring by Nazis. And I'm not even exaggerating much. That's what her language was. And whenever these people talked to her, interviewed her, cable news, they never said, well, how many people are we talking about? So, I've been doing this long enough to know that these people be playing the games, that it's not about accurate information. No one with a follow-up question, she's just able to blabber on. She's able to just say, all these deaths are happening, ICE is killing American citizens, and blah, blah, blah. Well, if you have the gout, or if you have heart disease, or if you have, a slip of you get, you have any type of medical issue in prison, they don't know the reason. They don't put the, you know what I'm saying? They just said, okay, you died in custody of ICE. But when we start looking at the actual numbers, I said, well, I need to know exactly what the numbers were. So anyway, nationally, you don't even want to know the numbers. I mean, we estimate 30,000 people die in prison in the United States a year. It's crazy numbers, but nobody cares because they're American citizens. That's part of my frustration with the Democratic Party. They talk all this smack, but at the end of the day, they don't give a shit about American citizens. Maxine Waters was showing up at, what was it at? She went to an ICE facility. She went to a Department of Education. She tried to get in there. They wouldn't let her in. All the Democrats was mad they couldn't get into the Department of Education. Then when she went to go to the ICE detention center, she was pissed because they wouldn't let her in there. But she probably drove past 5 different jails or penitentiaries or prisons in California and didn't bother to stop. I mean, do you realize the shit that's going on in juvenile detention centers? Of course you wouldn't know that because they don't want to talk about it. Fam, a juvenile detention center in Maryland, our juvenile detention centers are gladiator camps where kids were fighting while the guards were making them fight for a Snickers bar. Literally kids fighting damn near to the death over bets for a Snickers bar. But the guards are playing some real money bets, but had the kids fight for a Snickers. I mean, this is really what's happening. But you want to talk to me about undocumented people that put into detention centers? So this is like what's really going on. So part of the problem is we don't really have a media. We have, you know what I'm saying? We got corporate media. We got people that get paid to say a thing. They read a script and they don't stick to the, they're not doing it for the benefit of the audience. So they would talk about these things. But they don't. So what I'm saying is, tonight's title, how dumb do they think they are? Do they think we are? They think we're very dumb. That's a simple answer. They think we're some damn fools. Well, else would they think they could get away with this? Gaslight everybody? They're gaslighting us on this idea that it's the end of the country. That everybody's lives are up for grabs and that we have this historically horrible president that's destroying the country. And when I point out, hey fam, there's been stuff going on all this time. Like, Trump didn't invent any of this shit. It doesn't mean he's good, doesn't mean he's great. But one of the things he's doing that I'm glad about, I'm very glad that he's slowing the immigration. I'm glad he stopped the border. That gives black people an opportunity. I don't know, working class white Americans feel the same way. We have that in common. Of course, we got people that don't see it that way. That's fine. They don't have to. Because they're not competing for jobs with others. They're not in industries where they see the jobs disappearing. When you live through that and you see that happen in real time, you go from that understanding to actually see it and you go, oh shit. This is what they're doing. This is the play. So yeah, the globalization, right? That was part of the play. That's the new world order. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying it's all good. I'm saying they have you gaslit over what's really at stake. Yeah. But part of my mission is to tell us all then we need to wake up real quick because we ain't got much time left for this bullshit. If you're gonna truly buy into the mainstream media narratives, I mean, if you think your only hope is Don Lemon, I mean, if you call it Don Lemon a truth teller, you call it Joy Reid a truth teller, please. These are corporate employees who are so bad, even when they get fired, they're still corporate. How can you, look, it's one thing when you work at Macy's to act like a Macy's employee. I mean, to tell me you get fired from Macy's and you still an employee? And what have they done radically except drop F-bombs from time to time? I mean, what has changed? What has changed since they became free people? Just think about it. You know? Gosh. Excuse me, y'all. I don't know. I don't know what's up with people. Why? I don't know why my people can't see through it. I think it's just because when people look brown, you know. I think when people are black or look black, I think, Don Lemon is actually, I think it's from like Louisiana. I don't know, man, it just gives you a certain, like no one questions. Like if I say Anderson Cooper's a company guy, you go, of course. That's because Anderson Cooper's white, so you automatically agree. There's nothing to prove. You go, yeah, well, of course he is. When I say same thing about Don Lemon, same thing about Joy Reid, you go, hold on a second. Hold on. Remember that time she said the thing? We're so easy to fool, man. We are very easy to fool. In that way, we got like a cheat code to fool us is to have somebody look like us. And I was going through the archives working on some content today, right? I ran across a clip of Roland Martin. Roland Martin was calling black people stupid for being upset about mass incarceration. And I'm like, I couldn't believe this shit. He was actually calling black people stupid because of crime in Chicago. He said it's our fault and that we should be upset when they need to mass incarcerate and hire more cops. I mean, this is Roland. And what's crazy about it was I found the video on his own channel. So he was so brazen, right, that he put this on his channel like 13, 14 years ago, back when he was with CNN. That's when he said it. He said it on CNN. I'm like, damn, I know he don't realize this show has this, but I got it now, so it will be coming out in the future video. Just to kind of show these people always been on some bullshit. How do you square that? Now he's covering like police shootings and police this and do segments about how cops are mistreating black folks. But go back 10 years ago, that's not what he was saying when he was on CNN, before they fired his ass. Yeah, before they let him go, back when he was a surrogate for Obama, he was a different guy. It wasn't that long ago. Talking 10, 12 years ago. Totally different politics. Him and Don Lemon's politics was conservative, neoliberal, vote anybody blue, support the cops, black people, and talk down to black people. That's exactly what he was on. And I'm only bringing it up because I think it's hilarious. These are the people that I'm arguing with now that have the nerve to like be upset when I call out their favorite whatever. Like these are company people. These guys are just spokesmodels. These are influencers with sponsorships. So anyway, as we get further and further, so now they're really pissed because we got TSA So the TSA workers, some of them quit because they weren't getting paid because Democrats stopped the funding. They stopped the funding because they didn't want to fund Department of Homeland Security. Because under the Department of Homeland Security is ICE, and they don't want to fund ICE. So we got people that had to come to work, but weren't getting a paycheck. And just like they did with the government shutdown, they're the ones controlling the purse strings. Remember all that talk? We control the purse strings. Then when you shut down payment, effectively taking food off people's table, you blame Trump for it. You blame Trump for funding an agency in his federal government. My thing is, look, if you want to shut down the Department of Government, why not shut down the IRS? There you go. That's the point I'm saying. Why come you can see Democrats can't do anything? They can't get out their own way. I mean, if you want to go hard in the paint, if you truly want to win back voters, abolish taxes. How about the abolish the IRS movement? Man, you'd have people you've had all types of rednecks. You'd have all types of Americans involved. There would be conservatives who never even thought about voting for Democrat, who would vote Democrat, just for that one issue. That one issue would get 70% of the vote. I'm trying to tell you. So don't tell me these people really want to win elections. It's not about winning. Because if they really wanted to win, that's what you do. It's a no-brainer. It's economic. It's got nothing to do with race, so I guess it's got nothing to do with race or orientation or gender, all their hot spots, all their sweet spots. Got nothing to do with that. But if the Democrats really wanted to win, that's what they would run on. They run on the economic plan. How about abolish the IRS? Once upon a time, there was no IRS. There wasn't all these taxes. This is new shit. But see, they don't really want to win. Not that bad. Not bad enough to mess up the money. Just pretend. Yeah, so that would be like the first time they ever had an issue where most of America agreed with them. You know? Because this bathroom thing, 70% of Americans think it's dumb. About, this women is, men and women's sports or whatever, trans, or all this. The people think this is idiotic. I mean, only the most brainwashed people think, oh, it's cool, it's a good idea. Now, most reasonable people realize there's differences between men and women, you know what I'm saying? And if you have a daughter, like I have daughters and sons, they should not be competing in the same sports. It's crazy. But to say that, even say it is, what's the word for it? Phobic? Some phobia. So anyway, fine. You can't convince people. But it's like, the people that support it, do they have kids? Do they know the rules of anatomy? Do they live in the real world? But that's how much it is to be part of a tribe. That's how it is, how dangerous. You can overrule your brain about what you know to be true about life. All to fit into a party? Nah, man, bump these parties. That's why I don't support any parties, man. None. I mean, like, I'm one of those people that says, hey, Obama doesn't need me to support him. He doesn't need me to defend him. And if Trump tweets out or posts on Truth Social, whatever, a 20-second clip that has cartoons in it, and in the cartoons, the Obamas are pictured as gorillas, I think Obama should handle that. I don't need to get involved. But do I think it's stupid? Yeah. Do I think that's a bad look? Yeah. Do I think that he should have done that? Hell no. So, I think Trump does dumb shit. I think the Democrats do dumb shit. But the problem, and here it goes, guys. The problem is black people don't be voting for Republicans like that. We just don't vote for Republicans like that. So I don't spend a whole lot of time on Republicans because my people don't even know who the Republicans are. If I put up a video, and I'm talking about a Republican, no one wants to watch it. They don't even know who the person is. Like, who is this guy? Why does Tim have this white guy in his thumbnail who we don't know? They won't even care. I got to try to, make the video interesting and title it white politician tries to make black babies starve. I got to come up with something because they don't give a shit about Republicans. You need to go cover both sides. You know what? You got every corporate media entity in the world talking shit about Trump. Why would you need me to do that too? I'm just trying to figure it out. You can watch anybody. You can just throw a dart. If you see a black commentator, you go 9 times out of 10, they support the Democrats. Why do I have to do what they do? There's already a bunch of people doing it. Yeah. There we go. So that's where we are, right? That's where we are. So look, they think we're dumb. They think we can't figure this stuff out. You got a Democratic Party that barely won in 2020. They barely beat Trump. I'm telling you, the only reason why they beat Trump because of that damn pandemic. If it wasn't for that, they would have lost. You cannot tell me that. Then they ran Kamala. I don't know what they was thinking. But Obama, he knew something. He knew she was going to lose. That's why he didn't want him to run Michelle. Not Michelle. To run Kamala. People think if you ran Michelle, you had a better shot. Michelle Obama probably would have did better than Kamala. Look, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out Kamala's going to lose that, right? Shit. In 2020, I got almost the same amount of votes that Kamala got. 0. But you know what? I didn't get to spend what? How much money did Kamala spend in 2020? A lot of money to do nothing. Her and Cory Booker, they both ran. They both ended up with the same amount of votes before they dropped out and supported Biden. So yeah. For the record, fam, if we don't get our head out of our asses real soon, it's a wrap. Yeah, it's a wrap. In fact, there are sometimes, man, I'm sitting here, I'm thinking maybe it's already a wrap. Maybe it's just worry about your family because try to convince people that what's happening is happening. By the time they believe you, you know what I'm saying? By the time they believe you, it's too late. They'd rather believe their favorite celebrity. They'd rather believe their favorite celebrity. They don't want to listen. They don't realize the celebrities, their careers are very volatile. Celebrities standing up on business? Get out of here. You living in the Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown days. You in the Harry Belafonte days. You in a time warp. These new celebrities ain't standing on truth like that. You in the Nina Simone days. Come on, fam. These new celebrities have nothing to... Erykah Badu is not Nina Simone. Jill Scott is not Nina Simone. Come on, fam. The shit that black entertainers stood on 40, 50, 60 years ago. Come on, man. Come on, fam. Y'all know better. But some of us are still operating like this is the same type of energy in the culture. It's not. These people out to get their money and get the hell on. It is what it is. We got to accept that. So that they have been co-opted.
Catch Tim Black live on the most dangerous show in America, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. Don't miss out on the real. Stay dangerous.